What is one of the best ways to deal with problems from your past and present? Stay tuned to find out. Alrighty. Jumping into the next video in this series. How are you, hon? Listen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Hope all is well with you and that you're having a great day so far and continue to have a wonderful and blessed day. And we are going to jump right into this series. But before that, I want to say if you are new here, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are returning, thank you for coming back. I appreciate each and every one of you guys' support. And I always want to take the time and welcome you and thank you. So let's jump right into the video, hun. So I'm doing a series, a new series. So I just ended the Bicycle of Life series and doing a new series, and this one is about mind management. Lord, how we gonna keep our minds together, honey. So that is what this series is about. So I'm just gonna jump right in here to this next video in the series. So I asked the question at the top of this video: what is the best way to deal with your problems from the past and the present? And that answer, if you guessed it, is counseling, honey. It's counseling. So I don't know if people would expect that I would go in the direction. I talk about counseling a lot, though. That has been one of my goals that I was working on. So counseling is a great way to deal with your problems from the past and in the present. So just jumping right in, why is counseling good? Counseling helps you to deal with emotional and mental health from the past and the present, as I mentioned. Also, it helps in dealing with everything from, and I just got these off of Google. You know, I always like to give credit where credit is due. It helps you in dealing with everything from anxiety, stress, anger, depression, and overcoming difficult life situations and events like grief, trauma, or major change. And Lord, honey, when you get to adulting, don't we go through a lot of those things, honey? So it helps to have a resource to help you navigate through those types of things. It also, lastly, helps to improve relationships with family, partners, or colleagues, and helps navigate work or school-related difficulties, and helps you work through it helps you with working through personal conflict or person-to-person conflict and self-doubt. So personal conflict or conflict within yourself also, or self-doubt. So listen, there's so much I could say about that because, honey, I've experienced a lot of that within my life. And I have went to counseling. So I will tell you guys my counseling story as well. Before I do that, though, I'm going to get into what counseling is. So talked about why it's important. What is counseling, though? Counseling is, and I'm just literally reading the definition on this, counseling is a collaborative, professional relationship where a trained counselor helps an individual, a couple, or a group navigate emotional and psychological issues, life-changing or personal goals. Also, it's a form of talk therapy that provides a confidential, non-judgmental space to explore thoughts and feelings, develop coping skills, gain new perspective, and work towards specific outcomes. The counselor does not necessarily tell you what to do, but provides guidance, support, and techniques to help you find your own solution and achieve greater well-being. Now, like I said, that was a definition from Google, but I know from personal experience in some therapies, they do give you assignments or kind of tell you what to do in a certain sense. So the therapy that I went to, the individual counseling, it was called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. There's also dialectical, and I hope I'm saying that right, behavioral therapy, DBT. And there are some other forms that do, in fact, give you assignments to do. When I went to CBT, which is the one where they give you assignment, my counselor told me to start journaling or writing, and it helped tremendously. So I'm going to do more on journaling in another video in this same series, but I just wanted to touch on that. Not all of them don't tell you what to do. I went to some counselors that didn't tell you what to do, and it's like, honey, what am I paying you to do? I guess just listen to me. I didn't feel like I was getting my money's worth, honey. I need somebody to guide me, to give me some formalized something to make me feel like I'm moving forward, honey, because I didn't feel like I was moving forward just talking to them. I could do that to anybody, a friend, parent, whoever. You can talk to people, but what am I paying you to just be a ear? Some people need that. So I'm not bashing that. I'm not bashing that at all, because some people just literally need somebody to talk to vent to get their frustrations out. But for me, I wanted to be an active participant in my counseling journey. So I love the fact that I went to CBT, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, and she gave me assignments. And the first assignment she gave me was to write, honey, because I was in there a mess, crying, all the things. So she like, honey, you have pent up emotion, honey. Go on and get some journals and write. And that was the best thing she could have told me to do. I will get into that again in another video. But just moving on with this video. So that is what counseling is. And then how is counseling expressed, or how can we get into counseling, or what are the methodologies? So as the definition mentioned, you have the individual counseling. I'll tell my story here a bit on all of these, because I think I've went to pretty much all of these. Individual counseling, where it's just you and the counselor. You can do couples counseling, where it's you, your partner, and the counselor. Or also family counseling, where it's you, your partner, and the kids, or you and the kids, or, what have you. Then you have group counseling, where you guys are all coming together in a group, you and other people who need counseling, and you guys have a similarity. So, and I'll tell my story here in a minute, but I went to group counseling at my church. It was a grief counseling session where everybody there was going through grief from a loss of a loved one, like a death, a literal death, or loss of a job, or loss of something major in their life that they were grieving over and could not get over. And we were all there on one accord for grief counseling. So, but you also have like the 12-step program, where, people are trying to get off of alcohol or drugs or something like that. And they do group counseling sessions too, because you learn from other people as well in your counseling journey of what they've done to be effective in their walk with getting healed. So group therapy is a great thing as well. So you have that, and then you have self or guided therapy. That's where you don't have a counselor, but you kind of access resources online and, do the self-guided therapy. So whether it be a book online that you get, or some type of app or something like that can kind of guide you through the steps of therapy like that. And also, this is kind of like an individual, group, or individual, couples, family, or group. Now they're starting to do the online therapies where you don't have to go in. Literally, when I did therapy, it was like 2004, 2006, somewhere around there. So that was during a time before all the technology is up to speed of where it is now. So I literally went into her office, but I did a couple sessions with her this year, and now she's up to speed on technology. And she, because technology back then didn't exist of online counseling like that, or maybe it did, I just didn't know about it. But now she does the online counseling, so I didn't even have to go in. I could just dial in through an app, and she and I talk, and it's a confidentiality in that app, and then we go from there. So all of these can be done in an online format as well, for the convenience of the client and the convenience of the counselor as well. So that is how you can go to therapy, the different types or categories that it breaks down into. And just a side note on what therapy is, to me, it really, really feels good to let out your frustrations or with life situations or people to a non-biased party. I really enjoyed that part of counseling. So it's like you can't always tell the people that you love that you're frustrated with them. Let's just say it like that. So to have a non-biased party, because it also allows you to verify, am I wrong for thinking like this? Are they wrong? Am I wrong? Are we both wrong? It kind of gets it out in the open to get a person who does not have a dog in the fight and they have no vested interest in your life or your situation to say, am I thinking correctly about this situation? And even the Bible talks about counseling. There's so many verses, and I'm going to say a couple here or a few here that talks about counseling. So Proverbs 11:14 talks about where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in the abundance of counselors, there is safety. Also, or I think that verse also says in another version, the people perish. Proverbs 15:22 says, without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. Proverbs 12:15 says, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice. Proverbs 2:6-7 says, for the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. James 1:5 says, if anyone of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. Another word for reproach in the New Living Translation, it says, or another way to say that, it says, he will not rebuke you for asking. Also, the HCSB version of the Bible says he will give it to you without criticizing you. So he won't get on your head about, why are you asking me that question? He will just give you the wisdom that you are asking for. So you can always ask God for wisdom. So next verse that talks about counseling, Psalms 119:24 says, your testimonies are my delight. They are my counselors. That's an anonymous author. It doesn't say who wrote Psalms 119, but many people think it is King David because a lot of the Psalms were written by him. So that may be King David saying when he hears testimonies, because as a king, they had to be the judges in the land back in the Bible times. So they would sit and hear cases. And I'm sure he probably heard a lot of testimonies while he heard cases. And he said, your testimonies are my delight. They are my counselors. So hearing positive testimonies probably gave him encouragement in his spirit and his soul. So that's another thing about counsel. It is definitely encouraging to you. Next Bible verse, Isaiah 9:6 describes Jesus as the wonderful counselor. Galatians 6:1 said, encourages believers to restore such a one in the spirit of meekness if they are caught in transgression. So that one is just talking about we don't throw people away when they make a mistake. We restore them to the faith. So, child, I'm just going to be honest. That one is hard to do. I'm going to open this door. It's hot in here. That one is kind of hard to do because when people sin, especially if it's against you, it's sometimes hard to forgive them. But we are told to restore them to the faith. So sometimes by you having grace and mercy like God does, it can make a person repent and turn their life around. So, it's not perfect. Not everybody will repent and turn their life around, but you forgive and God forgives you, as the Bible says. Also, 2 Timothy 3:16-17 states that all scripture is profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness. Now, the BSB version of the Bible, hold on, let me close this door. Somebody trying to park. Oh, he got it. Oh, thank God for Jesus, because I'm hot, honey. The BSV version of the Bible, that word reproof, it says conviction of and then the Amplified adds of sin. So, meaning that scripture states that it is profitable for teaching and for conviction of sin. As well as the CEV version says reproof means helping people. NIV says it's for rebuking. And then I feel like the one that brings it really into focus is the God's Words translation. It says reproof means for pointing out errors. So all scripture is profitable for teaching, for pointing out errors, for correction, and for training in righteousness. So yes, that is what the Bible has to say about counseling. So just my personal story and journey with counseling. I have been to individual counseling. I have been to couples counseling. I have been to group counseling. I have did self-counseling, honey. I've done them all, honey. Just in general, I am a person who loves counseling. As a kid, I wanted to be a psychologist. So that tells you my journey with counseling. I've loved it since I was a kid. The reason why I love it is because sometimes, just being honest, I don't be understanding people. So counseling, because they study so many people and it's scientifically backed of all these studies of how people act and behave, it helps me specifically to understand people's behavior and people's ways, why they may be doing certain things and what is causing it, and then maybe even how to move forward. So that's why I love counseling. And then just in my personal journey, so the very first counseling I experienced, like I said, it was around 2004, 2006. My life was in shambles, honey. It was in shambles. I was doing a lot. It was a great time. As the one book said, it was the best of time. It was the worst of times. It was both at the same time. I was living in California, living the dream, honey. I was not in God at that time. I had not given my life to God, honey. I was running from the Lord because I won't say I had bad experiences. I did not have the most positive experiences as a teenager because I didn't understand the ways of church people. My parents did the best that they could with what they knew how to do. They took us to church, which was amazing. It was great. But how the religion was expressed was kind of repressive to my teenage soul, just being honest. I grew up as a kid in a Baptist church, and then we switched over to a Pentecostal church, and it was like, oh, no, I don't know what they doing around here. It's just when you grow up in a certain mindset and then you switch to something that's totally different, it can kind of throw your mind off, even as a teenager, So growing up being a Baptist, it's like you kind of free to express yourself, free to just be you. But Pentecostal, they're a little bit more strict. Women had to wear skirts. I always respected and wore a skirt to church. But outside of that, I would still wear my pants because I was used to wearing pants. And that's just one example, but they were very much more strict. All they talked about was hell. You never really heard a message that was kind of happy. It was a bunch of you going to hell. Now we know that is part of your walk. Like if you do not give your life to God, give your life to Jesus, then you will go to hell. But that's not the whole complete story of God. I have found God to be very loving. And so when I was younger, I was rebelling against church people, thinking I was running away from God, but God in his sovereignty. As I was running away from church people, I ran right into God. Ain't God good? Ain't he good, honey? So by 2004, I was in California. My life was falling apart because I had no God in it. And so I called the doctor, but a nurse picked up. And she was talking to me about the symptoms I was having. I was literally having these physical symptoms. Everything was hurting. Everything was bad. And she started asking me about the stress level in my life. And I feel like that was a God ordained thing. Thank God for that lady. Because she, I think, could recognize that I was a young lady that was doing a lot. I was working full time. I would go to school at night. So get off work, get on the train, ride about an hour, go to school, and then be at school probably about 4 hours, get home about maybe 9 or 10, still had to do homework, still had to cook food, still had to get ready for the next day, would be going to bed super late and getting right back up super early in the morning. So I was living off of maybe 1, 2, 3, at most 4 hours of sleep every single night. I never got over 4 hours of sleep. And I rarely got 4. Usually it would be like 1 or 2. So I was just burning the candle at both ends, as they say. And this was a lady, a little bit older, nurse lady. And I think she could see that as she started talking to me about what was going on in life. And, she saw that the symptoms were probably a physical manifestation of the stress that I was experiencing in life. And she recommended that I go to a counselor. She gave me 3 phone numbers. I called each and every one of them, and by their voicemails, I could tell which one I was going to go to. The first lady, honey, was talking rough on a voicemail. I said, what kind of, this ain't professional. She was talking rough. I said, when I get in counseling, she going to be talking like that. No, absolutely not. You're not going to talk to me like that. This is a voicemail. How are you talking rough on the voicemail? So that was a no. The second lady, I think it was just, I could just tell it wasn't gonna be right. I think she was like all over the place or something. It was like, no, that ain't gonna be the one. The third lady, her voice was calming, soothing, just had it together, and I can tell, yes, that is gonna be the one. So I booked an appointment with her, went to counseling, and as I mentioned on here, that very first session, I was a ball of mess, honey, crying, everything. But she told me to start journaling. And that changed my life. It revolutionized my life. I won't get into the journaling right now, but that is my journey with individual counseling. The start of my journey with individual counseling. Then I ended up moving to Atlanta, and I stopped the counseling because that counselor was in California. So I had to kind of change over, get acclimated to, when you move to a new place and a new city, you're getting acclimated. So I wasn't in counseling when I first got there, but eventually I went to counseling again. Life kind of got back into shambles because I'm apparently a person who needs to talk things out, and I didn't really have anybody. Not that I didn't have anybody to talk to. You don't want to tell everybody everything about you. You kind of want to keep something to yourself. So I would like to talk to a non-biased third party who has no dog in the fight in my life, because just honestly, I feel like sometimes friends and family tell you advice. Not that it's bad advice, but it ain't necessarily something that you would do. Counselors try to keep a more neutral background with the advice. They don't really try to give you advice. They just listen to you. Like I said, I did go to the cognitive therapy, so she will give me assignments or things to do to help me get it out of myself. But so I like that mode better. So I went back to counseling. Oh, what year was that? Was that 20? Ooh, I don't even know what year that was. Probably 2015, 14, something like that. Maybe even 13. Because it may have been before my dad passed away. I went back to individual counseling, and that was a wonderful experience as well. But then I stopped that one also. You see a theme here? I keep stopping and starting counseling. I stopped that one also for a few reasons. But I should have probably kept going with that one. But that's neither here nor there. It's past now. I stopped going to that counselor. But that was, I think partly, not all the way. It was still a good counseling sessions, but she didn't understand the church of it all. Certain things I would say about church or things of that nature, she didn't really understand that part. So I feel like I need somebody who has a Christian background. My perfect counselor would be somebody who then grew up in the church, but also has the education to be a counselor. That is my perfect counselor. So I may have to turn into that because I can't find that type of counselor. I'm sure they're out there, because I think BetterHelp or one of the websites, they ask you, do you want a Christian counselor? So I would like a Christian counselor who can understand, church hurt or, different things that you talk about with church, or why you live your life a certain way because you are celibate, because you are not going to participate in those type of activities until you're married, or certain things like that. So some of the churchy things, I would like a counselor that can understand that and can understand the other side of it, the scientific side of it, of how to get you to a certain point as well. So that is that on the individual counseling. Then I went to couples counseling. So as I mentioned, I was not in the Lord all of my life. I did get baptized at 5 years old, and I loved church, but we were more Sunday morning Christians, and that was about it. We didn't like read the Bible or do anything else that was pertaining to church during the week, unless it was a church service or something like that. So once I became a teenager and we switched churches to the Pentecostal church, child, we was in church every single day. So that's where I got a lot of teaching, because I was older, first of all, and just being in church every day, you're gonna absorb much more. So that is where I got a lot of teaching as far as the Bible and church. And but that's also what drove me away from the church, being there every day. It ain't that I didn't like church, it's just I couldn't necessarily do the everyday. I'm not the everyday church type of Christian. I am an everyday daily devotional. I do daily devotionals every day and Bible reading every day in certain seasons in my life. But the everyday church thing was not for me. So that's what ran me away from the church as a teenager and in my early 20s. Throughout my 20s, I didn't even go to church, honey. I did not. I think I didn't. I gave my life to the Lord in 2009. So I was 30 years old. I was 30 years old when I came back to the faith. So all throughout my 20s, I did not live in God, honey. Literally, I did not live in God. So as a teenager, I would tithe. I did follow that principle. I had my little jobs as a teenager, and God was blessing. I would get better and better jobs because I was tithing. But then when I went away from the church, my last tithe I gave to one of my best friends in college. And this is not funny, but it's comical when I think back on it. So I had my little last paycheck. Well, not my last paycheck, but I had a little paycheck that I had from my little job. And I was moving out on my own, honey. So I said, oh, I'm not going to be participating in church no more, because I'm in my 20s and I'm grown. Think I'm grown, honey. So I'm not gonna be tithing no more. So my last little money that I was gonna tithe, my friend's church, she had gotten into church actually, and gotten saved and everything. And my last little money that I was gonna tithe, I said, I'm gonna give this to my friend, because they were doing like a fundraiser at their church, or they were raising money for something. So she was asking people for donations. I said, here, girl. And she was like, you won't give me this? Because it was a good amount of money. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to take that for the church and everything. So that was my last tithe. But God is so good, because he turns stuff all the way around. Though I stopped tithing after that point, I feel like that was a seed of faith that eventually I would come back. So even the money that I was going to take, and I didn't even spend it, I actually gave it to another church, tithed at their church, so technically, through my friends. So God is faithful, and he honors that. So no matter what, in my 20s, God was always wooing me back. So I eventually, so the story, I've never really told it on here, but I was living with my son's dad. We were in a relationship, and we moved in together. I was pregnant, and we moved in before I had the baby. And, like I said, I was running from church. I was not trying to do anything churchy. So I did not go to church. I didn't read no Bible. I didn't do anything. I didn't tithe no more. But child, life got rough and tough, honey. I would not advise that for nobody. I tell young people, honey, do it right. Just go on and do it right. Don't be out of alignment with God, because child, I got many spiritual whoopings from doing it that way, doing it the wrong way. Instead of us getting married, just moving in together like that. So I would not advise it for anybody, because my 20s was a hot, funky mess, honey, just honestly. So by the time I was 30, I was ready to come back to the faith. My mentor gave me a Bible for my 30th birthday, firstly. And so our cable got cut off too. So it was like a series of events. First of all, God had been wooing me back with books. So The Purpose Driven Life. One time, the guy, my son's dad, he was working for a company, and I came home and The Purpose Driven Life was on our table. And I'm like, where did this book come from? He said the company that he worked for, the owner knew Rick Warren, the writer, because we were in California, and that Rick Warren is from California, the same area. We lived in Orange County, and the business where he worked was in Orange County. So the owner of the business knew Rick Warren, and Rick Warren signed the book for all of his employees. And so when I got home and the book was on the counter, I'm like, okay. To me as a church kid, I'm like, what is going on here? Is God trying to get my attention? And he was trying to get my attention. Another book showed up. I don't want to say the name of that book. It was kind of a spiritual book, but it's not a Christian book, so I don't want to really give the name of that book. But the same thing happened. I think somebody in his family sent him that book. So God was trying to get my attention. And he did get my attention. I knew it was from God. I knew it was from God. So nothing like that had ever happened to me. But I'm like, this is not by accident. This is like by design. God is trying to get my attention. So those two things happened. And then a lot of other things happened. But the culmination was 30th birthday. My mentor bought me a Bible. And it was the cutest Bible. It was pink. It was a new King James version, so kind of more modern language. And then in the back they had like different commentaries, different things, and they had like a yearly Bible reading plan in a year. So it was the cutest Bible. And so she gave me that for my 30th birthday, and I started crying in her office because I had always wanted a Bible. I never told my parents that I wanted a Bible as a teenager. I always had a vision of a white Bible with gold lettering. So I always wanted a Bible, but I never told anybody. So when she gave me that Bible, it was even better than the one I had thought about in my visions and dreams. And I just cried because I knew for sure at that point God was trying to get my attention, because it's like he gave me the desires of my heart of when I was actually in church. So that is one thing I always wanted, my own Bible. We had the church Bibles where, you just access them and then you put them back in the little slot behind the pews after church. But I always wanted my own Bible with my name on it. And so when she gave me that, I cried like a baby. And then I paid it forward. I gave my son a nice Bible. It's like a tan brown color, and it has his name in gold. So I kind of gave him the one that I wanted to give myself. So, and he reads it every day. Thank God for Jesus. So she gave me the Bible at the time, 30th birthday. She gave me a Bible in her office. I'm crying like a baby. And then I think a month or so before that, we had got cable. Child, we didn't have the money to get cable. We were already on a very tight budget trying to live our lives there. And at the time, my son's dad was like, oh, I want to get cable. I said, we don't really have the money, but okay, go on and get cable, honey. He got cable. A few months after my birthday, the cable got cut off because we didn't really have the money for the cable. So the cable got cut off, honey. So I didn't have nothing to do. He didn't have nothing to do. We sitting there looking at the walls. And all of a sudden I spotted that Bible because I had put it, we had like a TV stand. It was just really an old dresser that we had a little TV on top of, but I had put the Bible right next to it. So when we had no cable, we sitting in the living room just looking at each other. I saw that Bible. I said, let me read this Bible. Child, started reading the Bible, and it was enthralling to me, honey. I said, what in the world? Like, I knew about the stories in the Bible, but reading through it, you like, child, these people was going through it, honey. They was on one, as the young people to say. They was on one, because it's like, child, what are y'all doing with y'all lives? But that is human nature. That is everybody, not just the people in the Bible. That's just humans in general. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. So that is when I started reading the Bible. And then I had a point with the story. I started reading the Bible then, and then eventually I went to church that same summer and ended up, it was either summer before or the summer after, I ended up going to my mentor's church as well and joining the church and giving my life to God. So that is how God pulled me back into the faith. So eventually, I'm still living with my son's dad, but I had to have the conversation with him that, I've given my life to the Lord. I'm not trying to participate in these extracurricular activities, adult activities, if you know what I mean. So I had to have that conversation with him. So yes, what I'm saying, you are reading between the lines. If you're reading between the lines, I'm saying I was in a relationship and I went celibate in the relationship. I said, no, I'm not going to be doing those type of things no more. Still was living with him. We were still in the Leafs, but life happens, and it was like, I'm living for the Lord now. I can't be doing stuff like that. So that was that. And then, so we tried to actually work it out, and not that we were breaking up at the time. We were still together, thought we would eventually, get married still, even though I went celibate. So it's like, either he gonna stay or he gonna leave. If he gonna leave, then he wasn't the one anyway. So regardless, he stayed with me. Even though I went celibate and I wasn't, participating in those type of activities, he stayed with me. But so we tried to kind of really work through it and work it out. I invited him to church. He started coming, and then we went to couples counseling. So eventually, at a point, we got engaged. Sad story about our engagement. We got engaged in February, like around Valentine's Day of 2014. My dad died shortly after that or shortly before that. And so a month later, on my actual birthday, or the day before my birthday, we buried my father. So I didn't even get to tell my dad the news that we were getting married and, anything of that nature. He just passed suddenly from a heart attack, basically. So I never got to tell him that I actually got engaged. He knew we were living together and all that stuff, but I never got to actually formally tell my dad we were finally engaged, and, we were trying to do things the right way. So buried my dad, like my birthday is March 16th, buried my dad, I think on the 15th. And then I think the next day, my cousins and brothers and sisters took me out we did like a little arcade thing for my birthday. But of course, it was kind of a somber occasion. I was thankful and grateful for reconnecting with my dad's side of the family. But it was just sad because, my dad had just died. So I went through a lot with my dad dying. I really didn't get over his death until 2024. Like, it took me 10 years, really. So, but after that, he and I, my son's dad and I went to couples counseling. So we went to couples counseling actually at the church. So we did, I think there's like 5 sessions. We ended up doing 4. And by the 5th one, I kind of knew that this was probably not going to work. So we didn't end up going forward. Eventually, we ended up moving separately. And so that was that. But then, I had my own grief to process still with my dad dying. And so I went to a group counseling session at the church also, same church. So they did grief counseling, is where if you had any type of loss, whether a death in the family, whether you lost a job or major income, any type of loss that you experienced that was affecting you adversely, you could go to they called it OG, Overcoming Loss Group Experience. And they still have that counseling to this day. So that is the group counseling that I went to, plane flying over me. That is the group counseling I went to. I started out going to that group counseling talking about my father, but eventually it kind of spilled over into me talking about my relationship, the things that were happening with the relationship, dying basically. And so, but that helped me tremendously. At the end of that counseling, Our last session was you release a balloon and it signifies you are releasing a helium balloon, and it goes up and it signifies you letting go of your loved one. I really did not want to release that balloon, but I did it because it was part of the exercise. But I don't think I really ever released my dad, probably until last year. So that's 10 years later. So, but even in the midst of me not really wanting to feel like I wanted to release him, I still moved forward. I still, did what I had to do in the counseling sessions, and they helped. The very first counseling session, you tell your story. So that's like a 4-hour long session because everybody has to tell their story. And it was like about maybe 5, 6, 7 of us in there. So it took a while. And I felt terrible after the first session. But as each session, it was weekly sessions, each session went on and on, I felt better and better. By the end of the sessions, I think it was 12 weeks or 13 weeks, by the end of the sessions, I literally was walking around the office just humming like, singing songs and stuff like that. I felt so much better. I felt so much lighter. So counseling works, is my point. Counseling works. So I've done the group counseling, and then I've not done the family counseling like with the kids. That one is the only one I probably haven't done. But then I've also done the self-guided counseling. I've bought counseling books and access counseling resources, and there's some good ones out there, some really good ones. So I've done pretty much every type of counseling except the family counseling with the kids. So that is my journey with counseling. And like I said, I'll talk about journaling specifically in another video. But I was happy by the end. So my point in saying that is it does make a difference. It makes a huge, huge difference. So, just to wrap this up here, counseling is a great resource to deal with your past, and your present problems, and to move you forward, or to basically release. It's like a release. It's like you're releasing a valve. You're cleaning out the gunk of your soul and your spirit, and it helps you to move forward. After counseling is coaching. So I'll do a video on coaching as well. Coaching helps you to deal with your future and set goals to achieve them and to deal with your future. So usually you need to do counseling first. Not everybody needs to do counseling, but the majority of people could benefit from doing counseling first and then doing coaching to move forward. Because sometimes when you do coaching first, yes, you're trying to set goals, but then sometimes it doesn't work and you're like, why am I not able to move forward on these goals? Because you need to deal with some of the stuff in the past and the present before you can move forward into your goals. So counseling is a great way to do that. If you have not been to counseling but need counseling, try it out. Try out maybe the online one, or if you feel more comfortable going in, go into a counselor. But call your insurance company like I did and ask them about counseling resources. There are so many types of counselors. There are some that can prescribe medicine, because counseling is dealing with your mind. Just like we have a cut on our arm or a broken arm or broken leg, you need it mended by a doctor. Sometimes the things in our mind need to be mended. I know some people do not believe in mental health issues, but you can kind of tell when somebody is a little bit off. Just being honest. Can't you tell? You can tell. So mental issues do affect people. They do affect people. As much as people want to ignore them, that's like ignoring the pink elephant in the room. Ain't no ignoring it. It does exist. But there are things that you can do to move forward with it. So I would say, if you're on the fence about counseling, go ahead and go, hon. Just go ahead and go. It will change your life. It will make things much, much better. Find the counselor that works for you. Don't stop. If you are with a counselor and their style is not really jiving with your style, change counselors, honey. Keep changing until you get the one you want and need, right? So resources like BetterHelp are online counselors. There's some other online counselors that you can access. There's online books that you can access and apps that you can access to go to counseling. Like I said, many churches have counseling, individual. You can meet with the pastor or other representatives at the church to do counseling, or you can do the group counseling at churches. You can do group counseling at community centers or different counseling places of business that offer counseling services, right? You can even do the go away counseling, like, how they do the drug counseling, the Betty Ford type clinics and different things like that. So all of that falls under the purview of counseling. Whatever counseling you need, honey, get yourself the help that you need. Don't worry about people criticizing you, honey, because people gonna talk about you till the day you die, honey. No matter what you do. If you do good, if you do bad, if you do right, if you do wrong, people gonna talk about you till the day you die. So do something for yourself and get yourself the help that you need. Don't worry about people talking, honey. People gonna talk. It's called ignore. It's called as the little kids say, I'm rubber, you're glue. What you say bounces off of me and sticks to you. So you have to just ignore people. You have to know that when they are talking about something that you're doing negatively, that is because of their own insecurities. It really is. It's their own insecurities. So you just have to hear people, but not hear them at the same time. I be ignoring people when they say something that does not jive with what I need it to jive with. I will ignore. Now, if they get too out of pocket, I'll put them in their place too. So that's a whole nother conversation. But don't worry about what people say. If you need counseling, go to counseling. You ain't even got to tell nobody. I know I'm on here telling my counseling story, but if you go, you ain't got to tell people. You can just do it because it's confidential anyway. So you can just do it on a time that nobody would know. Do it after work. You don't have to take off work to do your counseling sessions. Do it after work. Do it on the weekends if you can find a counselor that will do it on the weekends. So do what you have to do to make sure that you are okay, honey. Because listen, you are the only one that is with you your whole life. You and God are with you your whole life. So you got to make sure that you okay to move forward how you need to move forward. So that is all I have to say. So go to counseling, hon. Go to counseling. So what about any of you guys? If you feel comfortable sharing your counseling stories and testimonies of maybe being set free from certain things through the counseling process, please share those in the comments with us, and we will encourage each other in the Lord. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Take care and have a good one. Bye-bye.